Scarlet Park, Bubba Sparks.
Booty, 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 rockin' everywhere. Booty, 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 rockin' everywhere. Booty, 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 booty.
Another good question I like to ask with medical assistant. Now, I may name like more than 5 questions, you guys. I'm sorry, but it's like these all are starting to come back to me as I'm talking. Make sure that you ask, what kind of procedures do you do at the office? If you already have a history of being a medical assistant, this is definitely a good question to ask, because you can compare the procedures that you do at your current job to the job that's you're about to get put on now. So say for instance, when I was at the care spot, I asked her, I said, what kind of procedures do you guys perform at this office? And she started naming some of them, but I started naming some of the ones we do here with pain management. I was like, do you guys do trigger point injections? Do you do epidural block? You know, stuff like that. And she was like, oh no, because you know, with it being urgent care, we have to keep up with the pace and whatnot. But she was like, but that's a good question. And I was just asking her, you know, you just never know. YouTube, it's Desi and I'm back with another video, y'all. So we are back again with another car talk, you guys. I feel like I should do this video as far as for asking which questions would be best to ask after an interview. I know I look quite different, y'all, because I got these glasses on, y'all. All right, so these are going to be 5 top questions that you should ask after an interview. It's always great to ask questions after an interview. You just never know as far as for if the employer is looking to see if you're going to ask a certain question as far as for regarding the company or anything like that. So it's always good to kind of keep that in mind. I feel like the top 5 good questions to ask during the interview. One, you want to ask them, what does your company offer? You always want to see as far as for what they offer, even after, you know, they ask as far as for benefits and they tell you, yeah, you get health insurance, you get vision, you know, you get dental and all that stuff like that. But however, you should ask a little bit more deeper. Do you guys offer tuition reimbursement? Do you guys offer 401k plan? Is there a chance where do I have sick and leave? You know, is there enough PTO for me? If not PTO, what else do you guys offer? Like, you know what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that you ask stuff about that. Another good question I like to ask is what type of patients do you mainly get? So depending on the practice, like say for instance, when I went to my interview for urgent care at care spot, I like to ask, one question I asked them after the interview. I said, so what majority of patients do you guys usually get? Because with us with pain management, we usually get a mixture of both young and elderly patients, but the majority patients we deal with is elderly patients. So at care spot, when I asked that question, the lady said they get a handful of everything. They let you know whether it's ranging from kids, you know, 7 years old, or you got older people, or you got teenagers, young adults. It all just depends. And of course that's understandable because, you know, it's urgent care. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to ask the question, you know, to make it still seem like I'm interested for that job, you know, those type of things. So you always want to ask what type of patients you're going to be dealing with as well. Another good question I like to ask as well too is, what type of volume should I expect when working here? When I mean as in volume, I mean as in like, is this a busy practice where I'm always going to be on my feet like that? Is it more so chilled, where we say for instance Monday through Thursdays we have like chill days, Fridays is our busiest days? I like to know those type of things as well too, because I like to know what I'm getting into. And certain things, some people like to have certain things kind of like organized before their shift, you know, whatnot. So say for instance, even if you're going to be expecting like busy patients, say for instance you got a set of shoes just set aside just for Friday, you know, just to keep up with the pace and everything like that. So I feel like asking as far as for what's the volume as far as for the practice is definitely a good question as well too. Another good question you can ask is what does a typical day look like for a medical assistant here? What exactly are the main exact job responsibilities you're looking for me to mainly majority handle? And when I ask that question, I like to make sure I throw in those keywords, because some people will be quick to tell you basic stuff. Oh, you just go in, you check the vital signs, make sure you just document it and whatnot, and then the nurse will come in right after you. They'll say stuff like that, but no, I want to know a little bit more deeper, like meaning as in, do I have to do urine analysis? Is there a certain person designated to that? Or when it comes to the EMR, is there certain, do you just want me to only put in the vital signs, or do I have to put in extra stuff? You know, you just got to make sure you ask just certain questions just to get a little bit more information. Also, you never know, one of the roles for the medical assistant may be to do both front and back office. So you want to make sure that you ask that as well too, because a lot of medical assistants on jobs nowadays just literally thinking they're only doing back office work. It depends on the practice, and it also depends on the provider that you're working for. But lately now, a lot of these jobs are actually taking you where if you're willing to learn both front and back office, you got the job like that. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to those type of things. Another good question I like to ask as well too, like, and this all depends on the person that's interviewing you, because they may think you asking this question too soon, but I don't know, me, if I'm really interested into a job, I love asking this question. If I get hired on, how fast is the hiring process? I love asking that question because a lot of these jobs are taking so much longer to hire you on. Now, when you're looking to work into a hospital or whatnot, you can already put aside 30 days that it's going to take for you to get hired on. It's not even like nothing to even argue about, because hospitals, they take a while to make sure they get your TB test, drug test, blood work, making sure they get all that stuff out the way. Then they get your badge, your uniform, and by that time it'll want a whole month by. So I like to ask that. And whenever I'm looking for another job, I like to make sure that the next job that I'm getting hired on, hire me on like that, where it's like I don't have to wait so long, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you have enough time to put in your 2 weeks, and then after the 2 weeks, you want to go ahead and start on with your other job. Like after my 2 weeks up, that's when I want to start on my other job. I don't want it being where I have to wait 2 weeks, I don't have no job, and then 3 weeks later, it's like I finally get on with the job, like, you know. So asking those type of questions as far as for how long it may take to get hired on, I would think definitely would be a good question, because you just never know. Some people may not ask that type of question. It all depends. You'll be shocked as far as for the type of reaction you get when you ask certain questions. And that's another thing, y'all, like when it comes to asking questions, do not be scared, because you just never know. You never know if you might be the first person to ask that question, or you might be the one to ask the question whereas the person that you're telling the question to, they probably like, man, like, what made her ask this question? Like, that's a good question. I didn't even think of it myself. So never be scared when it comes to asking questions on the interview. You just, one thing about me, I always like to ask questions because I like to know what I'm getting myself into. I like to make sure that I be observative of where I'm trying to work at, and also just make sure I get as much information as possible. And half of the time, if you feel as if they haven't answered most of your questions, check underneath the company reviews. Half of the time, your question may just be on there as far as for payment, as far as for how much you may be getting paid for that job, or also the benefits that come along with it, or the typical day that you'll see yourself as far as for an MA, what the hours may consist of, do you work weekends? Those type of questions are common questions that you can ask, but the questions that I just gave you guys, those are questions that you can kind of ask where probably nobody may know, or some people get stuck at the end of the interview when they, you know, it's their turn to ask questions. So you want to make sure you just ask those type of questions. Another good thing I like to ask as well too is sometimes regarding the scrubs. Now, if you're working at a hospital, sometimes some hospitals already have their scrubs set aside for what you can wear. But not only just, say for instance, if the color is like maroon and you can only wear maroon. What I like to ask questions is sometimes, okay, so when the holidays come, do you guys do anything special? Are we able to wear different color scrubs, or how does it work? Some companies may be lenient with it. Some companies may just stick to one color and just tell you, you can bring, you know, a long sleeve or something that has like prints on it, or you can bring a jacket that has prints on it, but we only stick to this color. So I feel like that's a good question to ask as well too. You just never know. So hopefully this video will be able to help you guys out as far as for your medical assistant interview. I love making videos about this because it's like everybody have different perspective when it comes to their interview. You just never know how everybody interviews goes. So I'm hoping everybody have a good one, y'all, and y'all stay safe throughout this coronavirus time. Peace, y'all, and I hope y'all enjoy this car talk.